What a frickin' insane evening, man. It's literally about as good as it gets, I think. I don't know what you could do to make it much better than this. It's crazy, man. The frickin' lake is dead flat.
Wow.
So it's funny, I might show this video footage in this video if I get a chance, but there's an eagle nest on one side of the lake, and the baby in it is like, it looks like it's probably ready to get his wings going. And the adults are on the opposite side of the lake, side by side in the trees over there. It's almost like they're, and they keep sending it the odd little scream across the lake. So it's kind of like they're letting it know, you know, we're still here, but you might have to fly over here to see us pretty quick. It would be interesting to hang out here and watch it go down. That's obviously what's going on. I mean, there's two adult eagles, you know, perch on the other side of the lake. And that poor baby is sitting in that massive nest on this side of the lake all by himself, thinking, what's up? How come nobody wants to hang out with me tonight? But we noticed that eagle's been in his nest all by itself basically all the time. It's crazy. We walked over there once, and the mom was freaking right out that we were walking around down below. And I videotaped her a whole bunch. But anyway, I'm going to read one more email. And then I'm going to hit the sleeping bag. Check out this frickin' scene here. Crazy backdrop this time. Steve, I've been following your channel for a couple years now and appreciate everything and appreciate every video I put out. This story is not a terrifying tale or an actual sighting, but it is interesting, to me at least, and perhaps others will think so as well. If it doesn't get told, at least you'll have perhaps read it. Recently, I was in a pretty remote area in northeast Washington with a friend of mine for some fishing. We pulled into a campground along the river right before dark, set up the tent, ate dinner, etc. There were two other groups camping as we were set up in between them. One of the groups was already asleep, while the other was winding down for the night. After a few beers, I heard what sounded like a beaver slap in the river. I got out a flashlight and checked to see what it was, but the bank below us was steep, with thick vegetation and visibility is limited. We both thought, whatever, it's probably a beaver, as I have been scared shitless by those tail slaps for many years while out fishing. About an hour later, when I was taking a piss, I heard it again. Except this time around, it happened over and over again and much louder. I thought, maybe this beaver is just pissed off. It paused for a few seconds, and then I heard something walking upstream and fast. It sounded powerful, much more powerful than a person wading upstream. The river was also running around 1,600 cubic feet per second, and in it, this stretch, it was about 4 to 7 feet deep, right off the bank where this was all happening. All of a sudden, it just stopped. We started thinking, what else could it be? A bear? A moose? Who knows? Finally, as we got to bed, I was laying in the cot, and right before I passed out, it happened again. The hair on my neck stood up, and I couldn't move because this time it was more aggressive in its movement. My buddy again says, dude, what the F is that? The best way to describe this ordeal would be as small boulders being tossed high in the air and hitting the water. I could hear it physically moving rocks along the steep bank and tossing them. It would then move 50 to 75 yards very fast and would do the same rock throwing. This is what really freaked me out, the amount of ground it covered in such a short amount of time. It repeated this up and down the bank for a good 3 to 5 minutes. Then there was a couple of minutes of silence. Then it started again. I saw a flashlight glance at our tent, confirming that the other group above us was trying to see what it could be. Their dog began to bark and then whimper. There are rocks now being launched into the river from two different spots, 50 yards below and above us at this point. One or both would make its way below our campsite and we could hear the brush moving. Then it was back to the rocks being thrown into the river. My friend and I just couldn't move, and I wasn't getting out of that tent. Isn't that funny how that tent creates such a false sense of security? Everything eventually just went silent. It took me about an hour to get to sleep. I wondered if some meth head was messing with us. I wonder if some meth head was messing with us? Nope. Because physically, even a strung-out person couldn't cover ground in a swift river like that. No way in hell. And what person throws 100 large rocks into small... And what person throws 100 large rocks to small boulders while standing in a river at 1 a.m.? Perhaps multiple people could. But this area was desolate, and even pranksters would have had a tough time not making a human-like sound to pull this off. I'm only mentioning this because people would consider that a possibility. I can assure you no person alive could move that fast in this water, nor on top of that steep bank, without hurting themselves or making a human-like noise. A bear couldn't do this, a bull moose couldn't rake up rocks like this and launch them with their rack. To me, that only leaves one option, Bigfoot. And from what I've heard that night, 2 of them. We never talked to the people camping next to us as they had left. As I said, this is not a crazy experience like many I've heard from your channel, but the rock throwing seems to be common with Bigfoot stories. The speed they were moving and the actual sound of picking up rocks was what really stood out to me. Thanks a lot, and thanks for what you do. Sincerely, Bubba. Alright, Bubba. You're welcome for reading it. And thank you for sharing your email with us. I don't know. What do you say? This shit's happening all the time. Thankfully, it didn't happen while I was reading this email. I guess the night's young yet. Who knows? Maybe something will happen here. Wouldn't that be something? But anyway, I don't know what's going on. You imagine, I guess, if you were one of these wild people, one of these wild beings, just think of, and you had a sense of humor, just think of the stuff he could do to us to freak us out, right? Especially people camping. It would be kind of fun. I mean, let's face it. If I was a Sasquatch and knew more about humans than not, I'd be terrorizing the shit out of them all the time, too.